Welcome back to the channel. My name is Crawford. This is Virginia is for Lowriders. Today we're starting the kind of ADD driven weekend. It's Thursday, so I'm going to try to get a little head start on this. It's going to be ADD driven because we're going to be bouncing around a little bit. We're going to try to get as much welding done as possible on as many random things on the Mazda project as possible. We are going to be working on the header again because I change my mind constantly and I never, I don't know. I got thinking about it this week and I want to change it up. I'll show you that in a second. 2 weekends ago, I beat the crap out of the brand new gas tank to get it to fit in the frame rails. I would like to notch the tank out and form a piece of sheet metal to go around that bar. So we're going to modify the gas tank. After the header, I would like to start gusseting the rear. I want to tie this bag mount to that bag mount where they don't have any of this stuff going on. I want to make the lower tab stronger instead of just being two long ass tabs just dangling around in the wind. This guy is probably the most important mount on the entire rear end because it takes all of the stress of the 3-link wishbone thing. So we need to make that stronger. We need to make all of this stronger. We need to satisfy my ADD brain with this guy because, again, I don't really like the way it turned out. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to explain a few things and we'll go from there. I'll try to keep it pretty quick. But thanks for subscribing. If you're new here, please subscribe. We are super close to that 1,000 mark. And if you like the video, click the button saying that you like the video. It'd be much appreciated. Let's jump into different rambling. It kind of sucks. I have 220 in my garage. I have an actual legit exhaust shop, tubing, bender, flaring, expander, contractor, actual ProBend 2000 machine in my sea container. My plug for the 220 in the garage is about 130 feet away from the sea container, and I don't have enough extension cord to reach out there. So I have to do all of this stuff like a caveman with whatever I have laying around because I'm not going to beat on my good dies. So we're doing other stuff. I bought this. This came in Amazon today. But I was impatient and I came out here last night and decided to try to find something that would work temporarily. And it ended up working out great. So this is made for straightening exhaust tubing. So say if you had one of these guys and had a dent in the end of it, you force this down on here and it pushes the dent out. I didn't have that yet. I found this. This is a skid steer bushing for the lower Bobtech plate from a John Deere. So I took Pee-wee here and a piece of 1.5 inch tubing and beat the crap out of it until I got this really nice uniform taper. That uniform taper fits the 2-inch exhaust perfectly. So my thought process on this is I'm happy with all of this. I like the way this turned out. I'm not really happy with this. I think this was too long. I made these tapered ends to reduce this because I couldn't find anything to go from 1.5 inch to 2 inch and 304 stainless. So I made this. It's kind of big. I tapered the ends before I cut the 45 to make everything else to make sure I had enough length. And I didn't take into account that this is probably going to be too long. So I'd like to shorten this to about here, take my flared ends and weld them on about here, and have, everything to be shorter. I'll show y'all my caveman ways of making this. And we're gonna cut this guy off, cut this guy off, and weld these to here and those to there, and stop rambling. Again. Yeah. Well, my plan didn't work out. It's the second day. It is pitch dark outside. It is 9:30. I was really planning on coming home and getting right in here, but tried to mow the grass before the storm happened. The storm didn't even happen. But that couch magnet got me because it was like 90 some odd degrees today. The couch just swallows you up. But I'm going to try to make some kind of a progress in the garage tonight and stay out here for a while because I have to get up in the morning and drive 4 hours to go hang out with my mom in the other Virginia at some raffle thing. So that's exciting. I'm going to lose a whole day tomorrow. So between tonight and Sunday, we're going to try to get as much done as we can so y'all have something to actually watch. Last night, before or after the battery died, I stayed out here for a little while longer. I cut this guy off, that way I could change the angle of this to widen it up a little bit because of the taper on that thing that I made, the collector that I made was a little off. But this is how it turned out last night. I got these cut down, trimmed down, which I'll weld them on and then grind these together flat on the belt sander. But it turned out pretty cool. So with those guys on there, it'll be much shorter, compact, not have nearly as much weight hanging off the end of the header. I think it'll work out pretty good. Plus I think, I don't know, my friends are telling me that these guys look cooler because it's different. I think this is gonna flow better, be stronger. So we're gonna go with that. We're gonna see how far we can get on this guy. And then we're gonna move on to the gas tank, I believe. So let's stop rambling and get to work. Right, it is welded on again. It is much shorter. I believe it to be stronger and possibly flow better. I got a little bit of more welding to do, but it actually fits better and has more clearance. So we're gonna call that one good for tonight. And I think I'm gonna go inside and eat something and pass out. We're gonna pick this back up Sunday morning, hopefully. Hopefully I have enough energy to come out here Sunday morning. And we gotta hustle. I gotta get some stuff done. Like, there's a lot to do in one day. I was hoping to get Saturday in, but it's not gonna happen. I got family time with the mom, so yeah. See y'all in 2 days. Well, it's the third day. Yeah, third, but we had to skip yesterday. We're getting back on the Mazda, but first I gotta fix whatever's going on in the garage. I wasn't here all day yesterday, and it stormed really bad. when I came into the garage, half of my lights don't work and the main GFCI circuit is blinking. So I gotta go see if I can find one of those. The AC is on its own separate run of power. I don't know. These cheap lights are killing me. I got 5 brand new ones in the sea container because these keep taking a crap on me and I keep getting them warranty. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. I thought it was gonna work out, but it's been like 4 or 5 months, maybe even more than that, months. And I've replaced 5 of them, and I have 5 more replacements. I don't know. I gotta see if I can find a GFCI because it just won't stop blinking. So I imagine something inside of it failed, which sucks to complain about that. But luckily, nothing else got messed up. All the plugs are on the same circuit in here. Some Mickey Mouse stuff happened. I don't know. This house was owned by an electrician guy, and there's a lot of questionable stuff going on. I imagine a lot of it came from job sites, and I've been slowly replacing all of it in the house, and everything that I've replaced, I don't even know what I'm doing, and I wouldn't have done that way. All sketchy, very questionable work. In the garage, it's exactly the same. So let me see if I can find one of those and we can get back to work. It's been 2 hours. I wasted 2 hours. I went through all of my random bins of electrical supplies. I found a bunch of regular plugs, but that's the only GFCI in the garage. So that turned into me going to the store, which it was storming extremely bad. It's calmed down now, but it was storming terribly bad. And it took me what felt like forever to get there because everybody was doing 5 miles an hour. But I replaced it, and I put one of those clear boxes over top of it that would be like a weatherproof for an outside outlet. I'm thinking maybe it being set up in my grinding area and right below the bandsaw, it would be kind of weird, but maybe metal's getting in there. I don't know what would cause it to fail again. This is the second time it's failed. None of the wires look questionable. Maybe mice. I know there's mice in here. I don't know. But regardless, we're getting back on the Mazda. We got the header finished up for the most part. We're waiting on parts for that. Let's get back on the gas tank. I think we can knock that out pretty quick. And then we'll move on and see where ADD leads us from there. So what we're trying to do is avoid that bar over there. In the previous video, I just went in there and beat the crap out of this thing just so that I could get it test fit, because I knew I'd be going in to do this. So my idea is to do something similar to this. I cut out this sub shape here and fill in that gap. look too bad. Oh, I gotta test fit it now. I think I hit it with the corner of my hammer a couple times, but it's a gas tank and you will never see it. I think that'll work. I angled it a little bit. I took out a little bit more than I was thinking. That way, coming in from the bottom, I don't run into any issues. Like, if I ever have to remove this, I'm probably not going to take off the bed. I'll probably just get underneath of it and maybe be able to get my hand in here to pop the bolts out. Not sure. My thought is coming in from the bottom, a little bit of extra room won't hurt. But yeah, it looks pretty good. Didn't take up a whole lot of time. So yeah, the bolt holes are right there. So there's probably a quarter of an inch between all of that. Oh, which path are we going with the ADD? I really want to start doing the electric fan conversion, because I think it'll look really cool if I take the fan off, I take that pulley off, and I cut that bracket down to where there's a single short belt from the crank to the alternator, and that's all you see on the front of the engine. Should we mess with this or start the rear end? I think we're gonna mess with this first. I know. I'm rambling. ADD's taking the wheel today, but we're getting stuff done. Stuff that's on the list. That's the big thing, is everything I'm doing needs to be done. Not necessarily in this order, but this is how I would normally work, because I can't concentrate on one thing and just follow through with it. I kind of have to bounce around because I get bored, but I try to structure my videos generally like doing the airbags, doing the 3-link, doing the notch stuff. That way it's a little bit more enjoyable to watch. But if y'all don't mind watching me do this, let me know. It makes it a little bit more entertaining because you don't know where I'm going to go with it. I don't know. It's a little dark over here, since these terrible cheap lights just don't want to do their thing. Yeah, we're going to cut the alternator off. Or cutting the alternator bracket down. I won't have... That way I can cut the belt and size it and get a belt for it. And that way, this week, or potentially Carlisle, since Carlisle's coming up in 2 or 3 weeks, and then Hershey's the following week. I don't know if y'all ever heard of Carlisle or Hershey, but it's the largest swap meets, as far as I know, in the U.S. Maybe the world. I don't know. At least Carlisle or Hershey is. Carlisle's slightly smaller, but still packed full of stuff. So I might get a fan either off Amazon or Carlisle, and I'm rambling, so let's just start doing stuff. Had to go in there and replenish my white trash coffee. Oh, man. And I think that I'll be able to remove this whole alternator bracket, and hopefully, looks like it's like cast iron or something. Hopefully the bandsaw rips through it, because if I have to cut it with a grinder, it's gonna suck. But I think the bandsaw's up to the task, and I'm gonna have to modify the dipstick too, because my new header touches it. Also, I will be doing, I've done this on a previous build. If this thing can actually see me. I did it on a previous build. I did a BMW temperature switch, a Volvo relay setup, and an electric fan. And it's all standalone to where it doesn't have to talk to an ECU or anything. I found out what the thread pitch is, because the coolant actually runs through the bottom of the intake on this. I found what thread that is, so I found an adapter to go from that to a BMW. Talking about the original temperature switch. So, I don't know. Not sure if I want to put it in the intake or do like I've done previously and put it in the radiator hoses. I think it'll be a little bit more trick. I don't know, that's kind of like an old man word to use. Cooler, we'll go with cooler to go into the intake to utilize a hole that's already there. I'd really like to just lop off all of those random vacuum lines that have caps on them right now and TIG weld the intake smooth, but that's like a whole day worth of work. Yeah. Maybe like future project. But for now, we're straying away again. I'm going to take that bracket off and see how easy it is to cut it. Alright, I'm thinking, this thing's nasty. Maybe something like just chopping it off here and then rounding it over, maybe? Hopefully. Really need to get these off to get the rest of that ugly green off of there. There's like 5 things left with green on them. This front cover and all of the wheels have green in behind them. All that stuff needs to go. This thing was covered in that crap. Covered in these terrible looking braided fuel lines, braided vacuum lines, braided radiator hoses, little hoses. Everything was covered in that stuff. All of it needs to go because it's terrible looking. It just corrodes. If it was legit, like AN line, I'd be okay with it. It's not. It's like a cheap knockoff, and it's all turning green, like, I don't know, toothpaste green from corrosion. It's terrible. So yeah, let's see if the bandsaw's up to the duty of cutting this guy. Bandsaws on cast iron. Yeah, that's the business there. That is it ripped through that in like 20 seconds, and this stuff is thick. I think I'm gonna round this over with the belt sander, clean it up, and throw it back on. We're gonna have to figure out exactly what length of belt we need to buy. So I find the best way to do that is slowly cut down the one that you have until it fits. Tape it together, bring it to the parts store, and just match it up. I have an actual belt reader at work, so that's another option. So drilled a little hole, threw a zip tie on there, get my final fitment. You can see got all that nasty green off there. This is sandblaster leaves a undesirable texture on here, so I'll just have to paint that. Doesn't that look so much better? Just nothing in there. A little smooth over edge. Not too bad. This thing has a single core radiator with at least a dual core end on it. So there is a ton of room in here. So I need to measure this out, figure out where I'm going to get my fan from. But we still got daylight. Let's ADD on to something else. Alright, So we're getting back on track with what I said in the beginning of the video. We're going to try to come up with at least a brace for the top of the rear end. Somewhere in this range. So I need to get this jacked up as if the truck was laid out, because I have to steer clear of this guy. And I broke another set of clamps. Good job, me. Yep, I'm just breaking the rest of the way. Wasn't paying attention. I did the same thing to these last week. It's awesome. Nice. So, I got a little vent guy here, which could easily be moved. Doesn't really matter, but when I'm building this, I need to steer clear of all of this. Got plenty of room on this side. Can't really go any further on that side because the center section's removable on that side. So I need to come up with something that cups it, braces it, and all of that. And then of course we'll move on to this stuff, but I'm going to start with that guy. This is why I always save these little cutoffs, just in case I need a visual representation of what I need to do. So I'm thinking something like this. So this angle's not exactly right, but this gets me a pretty close idea of what we're going for here. This, but directly on the tab. So I need to figure out what that angle is, transfer it over to this really, really stout chunk of steel that I have here. This is like 1/4 inch wall, 2x2. And create that. So once this is cut to length, I'm going to cut the face of it off, and those will get welded here and here, and then this will get coped on the end, and that piece of tubing will sit like I had it before and get welded all the way around it. But I think when I do that, I'm going to cut this off at an angle also, just to make it look nicer. So yeah, let's do some cutting, or a lot of cutting, especially with this guy. That's going to take a little while. All right, so I came up with this idea. I want to place, oh, helps if I put the camera in the right spot. I want to place a piece of tubing on the end, and then cope a piece of box tubing up to this piece. So I need to make sure that this is centered on here. So looking through my sockets, I got the correct size, and this piece fits perfectly over that. So I can come up with whatever angle I want this to be at, cut this, tack weld it on, and then build up to it on both sides. I think what I'm going to do for the vent is relocate it. After all of this is built, it'll probably get relocated into the cover on the rear. I don't think that it has to be in this location. I'm pretty sure I can move it. I think it'll be fine, as long as it's somewhere high to where it can actually breathe. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure how I'm gonna go about this, but this is a good start. That way I know that everything is exactly where it needs to be. So I really need to make a stand for this thing this week, because I'm not really much of a fan of clamping, and I don't know. I know it's going to get scratched up its entire life, but right away. I don't know. But this thing's awesome. The ability to go in at an angle and do square tubing, and that thing is, it's in there. It is rigid. That is not going anywhere. Ended up having to reuse my old arbor that I welded together because I didn't have any other 1 3/4 laying around that I could find. Pretty sure I have another one of these somewhere, but the old hole saw keeps on trucking. So hopefully I got this in the right spot. I'm gonna go through there and fingers crossed it fits on there. And if it does, I'll just duplicate it on the other side. Yeah, that thing is awesome. I don't think I could get anywhere near the precision with the other style. The other style works great. It'll get you through some stuff for sure. This thing's badass. All right, we got our socket alignment tool up there and the piece that I just made. So once all that is lined up and good to go, I'll tack weld it in place. Need to trace this onto the other side. But after cutting this like 6 times because I didn't have my height correct, that's what we came up with. I think that is going to make that very strong. And like I had said, I think I'm still going to build something into this. I just want to get the side to side taken care of. And I don't want to add a whole bunch of craziness. I don't want it to be like super bulky, but still strong. I got those guys welded up. So now I can set this in here and run around the edge of it with my Sharpie and just trim that to fit. Alright, this is what I came up with. I coped it. This is the piece that we just trimmed, so this will line everything up. And as you can see here, it'll fit that curve. This 2x2 square tubing was a little bit wider after I ran the hole saw through here. It cut some of the edges off, so I'll get it tacked in the front, tacked in the rear, and then squish the sides in and weld all the way around this. And when it's all said and done, the bolt will be slightly recessed on both sides, but it'll be easily accessible because we're using the socket to align everything. I'll leave the socket in there while it's being welded so I know for sure that I'll be able to get a socket in it later. Well, it is still piping hot. I'll probably end up having to change that joint out because there's like nylon and stuff in those, but I got a big pack of them. That'll just forever be my mock-up one. But my socket idea worked out pretty good. I think I'm going to go through and TIG the tops of these just because of how tight of an area it is. It's a little weird. Like, it's kind of like super simple. I think I might still build something that swoops underneath of these, but I think this is a good like starting point to it. Like if there was another angled piece that swooped down, I don't think it would like be weird if it was attached to this. And then of course something here, and I can't go forward, but something here for sure. But I believe we made actual progress this weekend, even though everything was trying to hold me back on it. So again, thanks for new subscribers, old subscribers. We are super close to that 1,000 mark, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Hopefully me bouncing around wasn't too much. Yeah, see you next week.